All right, let's talk about a true modern titan, Jeff Bezos. I mean, this is the guy who took a pretty simple idea, an online bookstore, and through just pure relentless ambition, turned it into Amazon. One of the most powerful and influential companies on the entire planet. It's an incredible journey, a vision, huge risk, and an unbelievable focus on the future.
So, the big question we're tackling today is this. How does one single idea, sparked by one little statistic, actually grow into a global empire that touches pretty much every part of our lives? It's really a story about seeing this massive wave of change coming before anyone else, and then having the guts to actually write it. So let's dive in, right at the beginning. So you might think this story starts in a garage, right? But nope, our story actually begins in the heart of the financial world. We're in the early 1990s, and Jeff Bezos is already living a life that most people would call the absolute peak of success. But for him, that wasn't the end goal. It was just the launch pad. Okay, picture this. It's 1994. Bezos is the youngest ever senior vice president at a really successful hedge fund. He's smart, he's driven, and he is on a very stable, very well-paid career path. This is his ordinary world, a life of comfort and security. I mean, by anyone's standards, the guy had already won. But see, under all that success, there was this itch he just couldn't scratch. He felt like something major was missing. He wasn't just interested in playing the game. He had this deep-seated ambition to build something totally new, something that would leave a real mark on the world. He was looking for his own frontier. And then he found it, this one single number. This is the moment everything changes. While doing his research, Bezos stumbles upon this absolutely staggering statistic. In 1994, the internet, which was still a pretty mysterious thing to most people, was growing by over 2,000% a year. This wasn't just growth, it was a straight-up explosion. And while almost everyone else saw a novelty, a little niche for academics and tech nerds, Bezos saw the foundation of an entirely new economy. He got it immediately. A growth rate that high wasn't a trend, it was a revolution. He knew right then and there that the future of commerce wasn't in physical stores, it was gonna be built online. This was the spark. So, armed with this electrifying idea, Bezos does what very few people in his position would ever dare to do. He just leaves his entire old life behind. And this decision, well, it kicks off one of the most famous entrepreneurial stories of our time. This journey has become the stuff of legend. Seriously, Bezos walks away from a huge bonus and a totally secure job. He and his then-wife, Mackenzie, get in their car and drive from New York all the way to Seattle. And while she's driving, he's in the passenger seat tapping out the business plan on his laptop. It all ends, of course, in the garage, that classic symbol of startup ambition. It was a complete and total leap of faith. Now, the initial idea was deceptively simple. Why start with books? Well, because they were the perfect product. There were millions of different titles, way more than any physical bookstore could ever stock. So the plan was to master this one thing, sell books, get them to people fast, and this is the most important part, build a foundation of trust. Remember, this is the early internet. Getting someone to type their credit card info into a website was a huge deal. Trust was everything. And this gets to the absolute core of his vision. The books were never really about the books. They were the Trojan horse. They were the perfect way to prove the concept, build out the infrastructure, and earn that customer loyalty. From day one, the grand vision was always to create a single online place where you could buy absolutely anything. The everything store wasn't some tagline they came up with later, it was the mission from the very beginning. Okay, so you have this grand vision, but building an empire isn't easy, especially when Wall Street is breathing down your neck. The early years for Amazon were a brutal test of this long-term vision against the constant demand for short-term results. This next chapter is all about his core philosophy. So, you've got this huge clash of ideas going on. On one side, you had Wall Street critics, especially after the dot-com bubble burst. They saw Amazon losing money quarter after quarter, and they just called it reckless. They wanted profits, and they wanted them now. They didn't get it. But on the other side, you had Bezos, who was playing a totally different game. He was pumping every single dollar right back into the company, building massive warehouses, improving the website, expanding. He wasn't focused on the next 3 months, he was focused on the next 10 years. His one guiding principle was a total obsession with the customer. For years, Amazon was growing, but it needed something to turn those loyal customers into permanent ones. It needed a knockout punch, a competitive advantage so strong it would fundamentally change how we all shop. And in 2005, they unleashed their masterpiece.
Amazon Prime. At the time, everybody thought this was an insane idea. Offer unlimited 2-day shipping for a flat yearly fee? The costs had to be astronomical. But Bezos understood psychology. Once you paid for Prime, you felt like you had to get your money's worth, right? So you check Amazon first for everything. It wasn't just a delivery service. It created this powerful ecosystem that locked in loyalty and made shopping on Amazon a frictionless, automatic habit. It completely rewired our expectations.
So let's just do a quick flyby of how we got here. It starts in a garage in '94, goes public just 3 years later. Through the 2000s, it survives the dot-com bust and just keeps expanding into new areas. Then, boom, Prime launches in 2005, cementing its retail dominance. But the empire was about to expand into a territory nobody saw coming.
Just when everyone had Amazon figured out as the online store, Bezos revealed he'd been quietly building a second, totally different, and wildly profitable business right under everyone's noses. He was literally building an empire on top of his first empire. So what the heck is Amazon Web Services, or AWS? Well, to put it simply, Amazon had built this incredible world-class computer system to run its own gigantic website. And then they had a brilliant idea. What if we just rented out our extra capacity to other companies? AWS lets anyone from a tiny startup to a huge corporation rent computing power and storage without having to build their own crazy expensive data centers. And the scale of AWS's influence today is just staggering. It has become the invisible backbone of the modern internet. That movie you're streaming, your banking app, even parts of government agencies, there's a really good chance they are all running on Amazon servers. And the best part for Amazon? It's incredibly profitable, and it's that profit that now fuels so much of the company's other big bet. Okay, so you've conquered retail, you've conquered the cloud. What's left? You might think he'd be satisfied, but his ambition was never just about business. It was always about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And his focus was now shifting from our planet to the stars. Using the immense wealth he earned from Amazon, Bezos started funding his childhood dream, space exploration. He founded Blue Origin, a private aerospace company, and turned his personal passion into his next massive venture. This wasn't some billionaire's hobby. He sees it as the ultimate expression of his long-term future-building philosophy. And the mission for Blue Origin is, well, it's straight out of science fiction. The goal is to make space travel way more accessible and eventually to help humanity become a multi-planetary species. It all connects right back to that core theme we've seen all along, building the infrastructure for the future, whether it's for online shopping, the cloud, or human civilization itself. But of course, building an empire of this size doesn't happen without controversy. The rise of Amazon and the accumulation of so much wealth and power have, pretty naturally, created some serious debates. No story this big is ever simple. This success has brought intense scrutiny. There are really serious ongoing debates about the working conditions in Amazon's warehouses, about the pace of work and worker monitoring. Critics point to the sheer scale of his personal wealth in a world struggling with inequality, and that sparks global conversations about capitalism and taxes. And of course, there are tough questions about Amazon's impact on small businesses and whether any single company should have this much power. These are the critical questions that define his very complicated legacy.
So, when you step back and just look at this whole transformation, it's mind-blowing. What started as a tiny startup in a garage just trying to sell some books online has morphed into a trillion-dollar global empire that dominates commerce, technology, and is now literally reaching for the stars. It's a powerful testament to a single idea chased with a relentless long-term focus. The story of Jeff Bezos really proves that one person's vision, when it's backed by incredible discipline, can truly reshape the world we live in. And that leaves us with one final thought. When a single person can build an empire this vast, what does that mean for our future? What comes next? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.